and share the screen. Okay, welcome everyone to the fortnightly meeting of the SinguarityNet Archive Workgroup. And this meeting is divided into two. The first part will be a run through of the project board, and the second part will be a discussion of short videos that we can produce for the archive work group that we're discussing. Okay, so we start off with the ambassadors GitBook. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. This was between Andre and Vanessa. Have we any updates on this at all? Vanessa?
Sorry, I'm talking. I didn't realise I was on mute. Sorry. No, I don't think we've got anything to add. We've just been a bit slow, I think. I mean, Sucre and I have come up with some things that probably do need adding, and yeah, we just need to do it, really.
Okay, that's fine. I won't add anything updates there, but there is something related to it in the next item, which I'll move on to now. The archive, the ambassador budget policy, and this is me and Tevo, and we did do some work, Tevo, on this. I can't remember when we did it now. It's the last Treasury Guild meeting, is that right, Tevo?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll go on.
Yeah, we created it, turned it into working group meeting. So, because and we just basically inserted the data there. I think we still have some items left to do, but basically the space is created and agreed, and so and kind of went through. So I think this item can be closed, although the GitBook itself may be updated.
We still need to. We still haven't completely updated the GitBook, though, have we?
Yeah.
So let's keep it open for until next time, Tevo, because
but the thing is, the next time most likely will happen in 3 weeks, and then I'm not sure we do any. So it's something that we do asynchronously, probably. What is missing is basically adding the list of how to see past rewards, and then also some information about wallets, stablecoins, and metadata.
What do people think? Do we keep this open or close it? It still has some.
The original purpose is completed, I would say, and the rest of the items are already like treasury quiz tasks. So I'm not. I'm not sure.
Okay. That's what. Again, also at this meeting, because we're coming to the end of the month, we're doing a question for every meeting about what charge should be against this activity. There's currently a charge of $100 against this activity. Is that too much, or is that the right amount? The work we did for this task, Tevo, what do you think?
I got no clue. Because all the activity happened in the meeting itself, and treasury quiz meetings are not rewarded.
No, but this is the part of it which is, I suppose, the work here, and we have documented the work here, is a series of discussions we had about documenting the budget policy, okay, which we did. We started it off in the end of June, and we had a couple of updates. You're right that most of the work was done in Treasury Guild, but for the work that we've done here is $100 a reasonable amount.
To me, it's over budget compared to ambassador rewards.
So what should it be? $50?
For example, it sounds better already.
I mean, what we're doing, we are, I'm just putting this per item. So I put $50 if there's any objection to that. I mean, that's for, several weeks of updates on this. Yeah. And I'll
Can I
close.
just check? This is actually, this is not the sort of discussions that have happened in Treasury Guild. This is the archiving of it, isn't it? So it's like researching back what's been said and pulling it all together.
Yeah.
I mean, I think 50 is low, but
So
it's my view.
Any other views? Okay, so I'll go back to 100. Or okay, I'm going to leave it at 100. If there's any objections, then I mean, because it's going to go through the fundraising process, the fund request process anyway. So there's going to be a further opportunity to flag these budget items.
And is it that's between you and Tevo, isn't it? So
no, it's actually the ambassadors. The ambassadors can choose whether to accept or not this item.
No. I mean the $100 is between you two.
I think it would go to us.
Right.
Well, by us, I mean the ambassador, the archive work group wallet. Okay, I'll leave at this moment because we can still alter it, and I'll close the issue, Tevo. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to highlight that because by closing the issue, that is then charged. You see, so okay, we've done those two. Proposal for the archive work group we were discussing briefly today, weren't we, Vanessa?
I feel like if we just update the budget as it was historically, like we were saying in the QA DAO meeting earlier, this could be closed.
Okay, so update original budget, so update budget on original proposal. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, because it's a historical record, that document. So we just want to make sure that we need to take it out of draft and just say this is what we proposed originally it would cost, and then it's archived. And obviously that charging structure has changed since, but that's documented elsewhere, isn't it?
Okay, that's media who's got to do that, that's right, isn't it? But I think I can do that so I could probably close that issue today and do that today. Yeah, okay. I will.
Do you close the item after you get rewarded, or you already close the item because you kind of completed the tasks?
Yeah, I mean, all I need to do is literally it's going into a document and adding an archive in it. So it's just adding a few sentences to a document. Is that right, Vanessa?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Tevo, this is like the process that Stephen's been talking about, is that closing an issue on the board triggers the application for payment. So that's the kind of workflow that I think we're going to use. So you close it, and because it's closed, you put in a request for payment, and then we'd have to, note.
I mean, to actually help with that, what I'll do is go through what this work entailed. And this is quite interesting because it's $500. Okay, so this is $500. That was all this work, and that was drafting a proposal for the archive work group, taking it through various meetings, the final version discussed on the budget, and budget to be updated against GitHub data, which has been done. A whole system was created for pass by budget for Treasury Guild for sign off. I mean, we have confirmed that we kind of confirmed the next quarter budget. Then I did some research into how to extract data according to the emerging procedure, Tevo, for fund requests. So I created a system whereby we could cost each issue in GitHub and then extract that out to a Notion board and to a GitHub, and through the GitHub board as well. so which is now in place. So that for that costing, that's $500. Again, I can close that, and this can be reviewed at the treasury stage. Okay, so I'll just close that for a moment. I posted in the Treasury Guild channel today, Tevo, what I just said, basically. Okay, moving on to the next one, archival work design. Again, sorry, this is over to you, Vanessa, again. What have we done on this?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a workflow, but I think it's going to be affected a little bit by what I've been doing on guidance notes for workgroup leads. So I think maybe those two issues should be merged because they're kind of connected.
Okay.
But when we get on to guidance notes, then I'll show you what I've got, and I really appreciate some input. So let's yeah.
I'll put an action item there to maybe merge with
yeah, cool.
guidance notes.
Yeah.
Guidance note past. Okay. I'll leave that open for the moment. And then okay, this is the task for the month of June. This is the work done in the month of June on the archive GitBook. Again, although Miro's and Vanessa's on here, I think that's again mainly you, Vanessa, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've done some chasing for the ones that are not completed, but also there was some that I didn't realize that it didn't happen, so I'm just catching up with adding. Oh, this meeting didn't happen, but there are a few that we haven't had, that are on the list. One of the most common ones that we don't get a meeting report for is the ambassadors town hall, and I don't know if we need to do something to kind of say, yeah, it'd be really nice to have that. And I don't know who's best to approach, really, because
it's very overwhelming, because that meeting itself is kind of a wrap up of all the other meetings, and then it has like quite some content, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like this. Yeah.
But I don't know what's the best format, because I think the slides get reused each week, so there isn't anything specific on the slides that we could take. So I guess it's going to be like not so much the Read AI transcripts, because they can be a bit rubbish, but I think the thing that it gives you of it's not keywords. I can't remember what it calls it now, but it's like a summary. So maybe if we could get that, because it is AI, Read AI is used, isn't it, in those meetings always?
Yeah, it's in there.
I think we didn't realise you were here. Yeah, I mean, what do you think would be? Because what I'm trying to do is think of a way that it can be documented and added to the archive without a massive documentation overhead. So, I think something from Read AI would be ideal.
Well, theoretically, the first half, like the workgroup updates, don't contain anything new. It's simply an overview of what's happened.
Yeah, but that is new. That's new content every time, isn't it?
But it's the same information that is truncated from the meeting notes that are already from other meetings.
Well, not directly one-on-one, but I think usually, well, it also gives a little bit of a preview on what's coming up on them. So maybe it's good to include.
And also, I take your point, Tevo, but I just think that the way people organise it for the town hall, they really strip it down to the main issues. And I think it gives a different emphasis than what they might give in their meeting report. So, yeah, I think it might be useful nevertheless.
So Peter, I suppose, I mean, your point, it is used as an opportunity for, well, ideally for ambassadors, I know for ambassadors leads to step forward and give a brief overview. That's quite different from meeting summaries, because they might add something new to that, Peter.
Yeah, it's not always the same. Generally speaking, it's a overview of what happened and a little preview of what the next meeting will be about, but just the topic. Like it won't go into like actual. It's not putting up a decision making a new input of decisions. Let's say it's
Yeah,
just we will talk about it. Do join the meeting.
yeah.
So
Oh, yeah,
I would say comparing that to the second half, which is more open topic, that part feels like it should be captured definitely. I mean, sometimes it's just casual talk, and it's not super critical. But every now and then there's cool topics where we also make decisions. So yeah, in my mind, that's more. I would say that's more important.
I have to say, from the archive's point of view, what you think is important at the time is not necessarily what's important archivally. That's a thing that sometimes it takes people, people don't sort of appreciate that, because you never know what is going to be important in the future. I mean, I could give you a couple of anecdotes to kind of explain that, but I don't want to take up meeting time. But all I'm saying is that if we've got it, or if we can easily get it through Read AI, then I think we should archive it. Why not?
okay.
Yeah, let's check Read AI. I can check Read AI to see what it makes of it.
Okay, well, I mean, the Read AI is probably the best solution to capturing the second half of the meeting, Peter. Do you use the same? Do you keep a record of the slides you've used at all?
Yeah, they're in the public folder.
Oh, they're in the public folder. Okay.
Let me triple check that before I say it so confidently, but
Okay.
But yeah, what I'm going to suggest is that if we look at Read AI, let's look at this little summary that it does rather than the full transcript, if we can. And let's do it for the whole meeting.
I mean,
I've just seen what Tevo's just posted in the chat.
oh, it's just really fun.
So it's not the most accurate transcript then. All right.
Yeah, it requires still like tinkering.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a workflow. So could you post the slide link in the meeting summaries every week, Peter?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Would that be helpful, Vanessa, at all?
I mean, honestly, I don't think the slides are like as useful as whatever we can get from Read AI in the form of a summary. I mean,
Yeah,
if the summary really is shite, then maybe we should rethink that. But I don't know. Really, yeah, okay. I mean, actually, yeah, some of it is all right, as Tevo's just posting excerpts from it in the chat, and some of it is okay. So should we try it for like a couple of meetings and just, where would I access that, or does somebody have to post it in the meeting summaries channel for me?
I think you just need login to Read AI. Is that right, Tevo?
Yeah, I think ambassador account is needed, but I'm going to test what happens if I log in with my own account, but using the link.
Well, I'm making these notes. I'm just thinking this particular task is going to be closed, so I might have to transfer these notes to another issue. But okay, so we kind of, because some of these issues there should be a separate issue for July. I'm not sure if it's why.
There will be, yeah, but just while we're thinking of it, like, the question is about when we close something. So what I was going to suggest is, do we have a threshold in mind of like how many meetings of those that took place?
Yeah,
we've got a summary for? Should we have, we can't close it if we've only had 4 or something? I don't know.
yeah, that's quite so. Okay, this task is for the archiving of SingularityNet ambassador content for June. Okay, So the question is, I suppose what is the, I'm kind of repeating what you just said there, Vanessa, but so so any thoughts on that? No.
I mean, I'm sort of inclined to say if you maybe it's about the number of times you've chased it. If you've chased it twice and you've got nothing, it's
Once,
come
or
from
maybe
chasing it
twice.
more, is it? What?
One time.
One
Max.
time.
One time. Oh, hardliner.
Yeah. What do you mean, Tevo? You sort of should we do that for the meeting summary channel, or Vanessa, or should we do it somewhere else?
I mean,
So-
I generally do both. I'll like post. Well, no, I don't actually. What I've been doing is going to people who I know is the work group lead wherever they are and asking.
Okay, so the process will be to approach the work group lead, yeah.
Yeah.
And
By the way, I can confirm that the ambassador account is needed because it requires access if I log in with my own account.
Okay. I mean,
And
would
post-
somebody be able to like just copy and paste it and stick it in the meetings channel?
Do you mean the meeting summary text from Read AI?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so the intention is to approach the work group lead and post in meeting summaries to chase.
But I would still
Vanessa,
prefer.
sorry, Tila. Is that right, Vanessa?
We're talking about two different things here, Stephen. I think.
I know. I'm trying to clarify.
Tevo's still picking up on like, yeah, the Read AI summary.
If we could not talk about two things at the same time. So first of all, in chasing, is that how we're going to chase? Yeah.
No, generally I'm posting it wherever it is that the work group lead is to be
in the
found.
work group.
So,
channel.
for example, if it's
Yeah.
the I don't know education work group, I'll go in there and post and ask them,
Okay,
or I
so-
might DM somebody. So, because if they're not looking at the meetings channel, then they won't look at it. So.
Okay, now we're going to turn back to what else you're discussing, which is the radar. Sorry, Tevo. So, what you were saying about VDI?
I think we should give access to Vanessa then if he's going to, because it's a bit annoying overhead to copy paste the summary, and maybe you still need some additional info because it gives you chapters and topics and action items and key questions that are like other relevant information, and it's like duplicated work if you copy paste stuff. It doesn't format, so you lose the formatting, and then it's like
no, fair play.
Okay, so that's a task to do, yeah. And the other thing on just agreements on things. I'll copy the notes. Well, again, we haven't come to a decision about this. Should we keep this task open for the moment then?
I actually think we should create a new task for getting meeting summaries of Ambassadors Town Hall, and that stuff should go in there. And then the actual June task, I think, can be closed.
Meeting summary.
I think I've done as much chasing as is possible to do. So if we haven't got summaries by now, then close it.
What was the name of the task you suggested? Meeting summaries.
Getting meeting summaries from Ambassadors Town Hall.
Do you really want to do that from retrospective instead of from next town hall onward? You will start doing that.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I mean, I could, if I find time, because like if I have access to it, I'll be able to see past ones as well, will I? So if I get time, I could fill it in, but I might not.
Okay, I'm just sorry.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
We can work out.
So if you like copy and paste the stuff that we said,
then we can close June down.
Yeah, that would be good.
I'll take the notes. Most of the notes here are
are about that.
So the bulk of them actually.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back to the other issue. Sorry about this.
No. Oh, okay. There's only 3 in the Read AI account. Okay. That's fine.
And that would go under archive. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And we can work out costs later. Okay, so going back again, we need to create a separate issue for July, actually, as well.
Isn't there one? I thought I created one.
I'm just going to check whether that. No, it's about budget.
Oh no.
Maybe
All right. Well, no, in that case, that's me then. I meant to and I haven't yet. So maybe we could put that to the next meeting, or do we want to try and close it now?
I can just create the issue for
Okay.
July and
Nice one.
let you do it sequentially. Yeah.
All right.
So I'll just do that quickly.
But what I can say is that July doesn't look too bad, bearing in mind that I think quite a lot of people have been on holidays. So there hasn't always been a meeting when there was supposed to be. And the same issues about the ambassadors town hall carry over into July, but we've fixed that now. So yeah, we're getting to the stage where, and obviously I've been a little bit slow archiving stuff because of proposal submission period in Catalyst, which was a bit absorbing in the middle of June. So yeah, I think I'm almost caught up now. So yeah.
Okay, there's a blank issue for July.
All right, I will fill it in.
What I'll do for June, and this is also, again, I have to mention because we're discussing budget closes. This is $500 per month, which is not very much, but there you go. Does anyone think that's a reasonable or an unreasonable amount to archive the whole of SNet for a month? Vanessa?
I think it was worked out fairly, and I think it's all right. So yeah.
Okay.
If you could just minute there where you've got a few June meetings that are not archived, if you could just add, but enough, something like that, enough have been archived to close it, or we've chased as much as we can, and we've decided to close it, and then we can close it.
I mean, yeah, we live and learn, so we have to close things otherwise we just constantly have a backlog of budgeted items. That's why we're doing this.
I mean, what I might do also is go in and add any learning points from any sort of feedback that I've had from people, but there hasn't been that much, so yeah.
Okay. You can still look at closed issues. I can show you how to do that if you need to.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Okay, that's going to be closed. So that's again another charge. Okay. So close. Come on. Yeah. Okay. Now we're on to. Okay, I'm not sure if that should be in the development section or if it's in the archive section.
Yeah, that's archives. I think we've had that conversation before, haven't we?
Okay. Okay. This is Vanessa and Andre again. This is, to be clear, this is about large language models to create archival finding aids. I think because of the proposal work we've been doing in Catalyst, we haven't done anything on this. Is that right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's worth saying that we have thought about whether some of this could translate into a deep funding proposal eventually. Is that worth mentioning?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what. Yeah, again, we'll put that out there. I mean, the question is, what should be part of the scope of the archive work group in terms of the ambassadors archive work group, and what would be more appropriate as a deep funding element? So it's just a conversation we're having. So if anyone has any input to that, we're welcome to Felix or Peter or Tevo, who have any ideas there.
Yeah, I think what would be needed is then the plugin to basically AI marketplace And I guess the documentation of workload. How do you record your meeting summaries? Because I assume it's all related to the using the meeting output to derive value from the LLM in future. So having like a workflow so that it could be used not just on only Ambassador, but others could also try and, okay, if I track my work this way, then I can link it up to this SinguarityNet marketplace and feed in these Excels that or CSV files in that format, like drop-ins. Usually right now it's like a best format is a drop-in format, and then assuming it will work. So, but it will require then that you are running the server, then people are able to upload files to your server.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, I'm not sure we're ready, Andre, for that because, well, I don't know, what do you think, Andre?
Yeah, no, the thing I'm building is specific for the archives, but to build something for the marketplace might be a little bit bigger, like Tevo said. You need a database.
So maybe more from a strategic point of view to think about that in another 3 months' time when there's another round of defunding, Andre.
Yeah, I do.
I'll
have a better idea when this thing is, when this archive tool is finished.
Yeah,
what that might look like.
Felix,
Because
your hands up.
the integration to SNet Marketplace is actually, sorry Pete, but it's quite a pain in the ass at the Colab. Because with one of the SNet devs where we tried to figure out how we actually integrate the accomplished proposal into SNet Marketplace. Really difficult actually.
Okay. I mean, yeah, we are having, I mean, as you say, Andre, we are, well, you are actually developing something that is focused on the Ambassador GitBook archive, yeah? And
yes.
Yeah, and that is taking up, that's going to take up the bulk of our time, and also that's a bit like a proof of concept, I would say. And so the timing doesn't feel right here, is my view. It feels that we need to do that work first, and then we may be able to look at, another defunding round in a few months' time. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll put that down as okay. So I'll put that as not ready to submit at the moment. Not ready to submit. Again, we might revisit this. Obviously, yeah, we can return to that. And that's still open. Okay, quarterly report for Archives Workgroup.
I'm going to
Vanessa.
suggest, could you change the title of it to which quarter?
Yeah.
So it's Q2.
Q2, yeah.
And the only reason it wasn't closed is that we were just saying, oh, Peter is the one who's collating them, and he might read it and go, no, that's not what we need. So it's handy that you're here, Peter, I guess, because if it's approved and signed off, then it can be closed.
Oh yeah, there you go, Peter. Is he here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, was doing 7 things at the same time.
Yeah, sorry, I can't see the screen of who's here, so that's fine.
Yes, I was not aware I needed to update that. It's fine, but it's fine. Thank you.
So
I wasn't sure if he needed to either, but we thought we'd better wait and make sure.
Oh, fair.
So it is fine. I can close this. Yeah.
Yes.
That's fine. I think that's it. So that's quite straightforward. The cost for that was $50. Which I think is a bargain. So there you go. Which was, by the way, producing. I mean, do you want a quick summary of what you did there, Vanessa? You produced a archive for Archive Workgroup quarterly report for our activities for Q2 for Tommy. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was Tommy that requested them, and he messaged me at some point and just went, "Oh, do you think we could like template this for people?" And I kind of felt that no, we probably couldn't, because different work groups need to report in different ways. But one thing that we did wonder is, should a quarterly report in future include looking to what you plan to do in the next quarter? And I kind of think it should, and everybody else thought it shouldn't. So I guess I'll go with what people think.
Okay. Well, I'll get a note of that in case two plans from people typing. Having a typing meet up next month.
Yeah, it makes sense to have a little forward outlook. mean-
Oh, thank you for the support on that one. Oh, but just thinking also, maybe do we need to now create an issue on the board for Q3 and a due date for when that's due, which is like September, I suppose. But anyway, yeah, back to forward looking. Yeah, I think it's
Okay,
I think
that's
it's
a good
idea.
point. Actually, I'll can do that now, and I'll close this down so we can
Yeah.
create. Oh god, can I copy that? Yeah, I can copy that. Let me just copy that.
Yeah, one would assume that if there's nice plans on the horizon, the work group should be happy to report on these plans being a thing and then rallying up people to join in. And
Mhm.
yeah, if the plan is just to continue as it was, well, that's also fine. But then it's easy to include.
I think for me it was just more like, if the Q2 report had said in Q3 we intend to blah 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 blah, then when you come to write the Q3 report, you can say whether you did or not and why, and it helps you identify blocks. That's kind of what my thinking was.
Okay, I'm just going to create a quick item for Q3. I'll allocate that to you, Vanessa, and
All right.
so that will be due, well, before the end of Q3.
I mean, I did also just want to raise, like, maybe for quarterly reports, I wonder, is there anything there we can automate? As in, we're working off a GitHub board. Is there any way that closed issues could be automatically populate the beginnings of a report so we can see what or do we just manually look at what the
Yeah,
closed
it
issues
already
are?
exists actually on here. So if we look at the budget export for our issues, which goes into what we're doing here.
Yeah.
This is a live update. So everything I've closed has been updated live here. I do need to add the budget amounts here.
And does it give you I can't, my screen's too small. Does it give you the date it was closed?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
why
that's cool.
That's why it's in, I probably should have mentioned that. So this is what the interface I set up. So every issue I close in GitHub has a cost associated with it here. Well, all dates are essentially irrelevant apart from the close date. Okay, so as soon as the issue's closed, it's effectively charged. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically. So if you're doing a quarterly report, Vanessa, then yes, we will be able to. You will be able to refer to a list of issues for that quarter.
Nice. I mean, the only thing, of course, is that there might be open issues that we've done work on, but they're not finished yet, and that should also be included. But yeah, it's a nice start.
I mean, that's part of the challenge here. You see all these open issues here, which have charges against them. They are still open, so they're not charged. Which is still a challenge for us.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I've allocated that. That will be under archive. And it'll probably be $50 or so again, well, unless we revise that. Quarterly report 2 is 50, and I'll close that, so that will then be charged. What's that? Okay, I can't remember why this is a separate issue, Tevo. Oh no, it's reading summaries from investors archive workgroup. So,
what's going on?
do you remember why we raised this archive workgroup budget? Is it a duplicate issue, Tevo?
Not really. Maybe you wanted to close something and you created a new issue about.
Yeah,
because I see also.
Oh, I haven't closed it. Look, close this issue. Okay. It's no charge against this. It's a mistake. Sorry, I'll close that. Apologies for the confusion. There was no charge against that, by the way. Meeting summaries from Ambassadors Town Hall.
That's
Vanessa?
literally what we've just created.
Okay, yeah.
No, that's literally the issue we've just, yeah.
I know, sorry, it's like I'm having a kind of time slip moment. Yeah, I'm going back on issues I just created. What's happening? Okay. Archive GitBook backlog, which is the entire backlog. Again, I have to put my hands up, and I haven't really done much on this because I was distracted a lot by catalyst proposals. So it is still ongoing, and it has a, you know, I will give an update and do incremental work over the next few weeks on this. Is there any other comments about or suggestions or questions about the entire backlog? Anyone?
I was just thinking that if I catch up with, which I have done pretty much now on the current one, I could like chip in if it's useful to do some of this.
Are
Or
you
would you
taking
rather-
it from the Miro board?
Yeah, some of it is Tevo, yeah. The problem is it's quite go on.
If there is like a specific date and time, I'm willing to like work group it, like workshop it. How do you kind of do that, and then help you to take just the Miro boards like past history?
That would be
some
really
free time.
if you can quickly, because I know you can do it quicker than me if you have a better connection than me. If you can take every frame meeting.
I'm not only talking about frame. I'm thinking like entire the meeting summaries and sticky notes and like and putting it in GitBook it myself. You can give me access, and I just because I assume I can do that, but just like straight out of like trial and erroring, I don't think it's like good time well spent. But if Vanessa, like, or you show me how you take one meeting through entire process. I mean, actually we did it already, but in a sense that I'm actually using the GitBook myself, not looking at how you do it.
Yeah.
See, I think this ties in with what we were talking about making short videos to show people how to. Maybe this is what we need to do.
Yeah, is related to how to do on.
But so we don't hold it up while we're waiting for those short videos. I'm happy to like, do that one-to-one. Like,
yeah. So am I didn't think
we can also perhaps do a workshop. Maybe then it's 2 hours and record the entire thing, and then we either can give it to the video work group, or I can hit up my friend who does videos and edit together like the how-to videos from
that's great, Tevo. I mean the
back and forth.
I mean, what sort of what sort of time are you thinking?
I'm just like, why would it need to be a 2-hour video? That's
no, not 2-hour video, but 2-hour workshop. Because I'm assuming that it's not like clear cut, like
it is pretty.
Okay, maybe okay.
It is pretty clear cut, but it's just the stuff that you might have to go looking for with the backlog.
I mean, let's keep an open mind here. So should we arrange a work group session? Where are we now? We're Wednesday. Next week, Tevo? Is that a no?
I'm just trying to find. I'm using wrong months.
Yeah. Maybe not 2 hours, maybe an hour. Because go on.
I have a vacation next 2 weeks.
Okay.
And I definitely have free time there, but I don't yet exactly know when, because right after weekend I'm going to the travel, but I'm not sure when I come back.
Shall I do can we asynchronously discuss that then? Maybe have because the process is quite clear, Tevo, so it doesn't really need to be brainstormed. So it's more it's a bit like just doing the work. So if we could spend a session together where we would go over the mirror board and go through, and also other sources like meeting summaries, as you say. And what I've done previously is I've selected different months here. Okay, so it might make sense, again, we can discuss this, it might make sense to select a month like May 2023, for example, and then look through the different sources for material there. And the sources do seem to be Discord, maybe some Google documents, and also particularly the Miro board. Does that sound like a good approach? What do you think?
Yeah.
I'll DM you on that then too.
Yeah. If it's not this week, then from next week, probably starting from Thursday, I guess, drop me a date and time, and then I will try to synchronize with you.
The 4th you're thinking of, the 4th of August onwards.
It's 3rd August, but yes.
Yeah. Okay, that gives me a reminder. So there you go.
I mean, 3rd August.
3rd of August. Okay. Oh. Yeah, I just read that wrong. Sorry. Yeah. Ask them to me to do that. Okay, moving on to publicizing archive workgroup meetings. Vanessa.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of weeks ago in the ambassadors town hall, I shared a slide and tried to get people and sort of use the doc that I've just put in the chat. And if I can, I don't know if I can, I don't want to screen share over you actually, but the only person that said yes, I can help is Tevo. So thank you, Tevo. But it's, you know, it's not what we were hoping for, is it? I think it's partly my fault because I should have shared that doc elsewhere as well. I should have put it in all the Discord channels and what have you. So I will do that. But the idea of, you know, this kind of tagging and tag taxonomy approach is like a simple kind of discrete task that people can get involved with. And we thought it might help onboard people to the archives work group if we could get people into it. So the point of sharing it in the ambassadors work group was to try and get ambassadors to help us get people on board. So maybe I need to reword it slightly and just make it more of a call out to people who are actually going to get involved in doing it, rather than people who are going to help me get people involved in doing it. And then we can hopefully, because this all ties in with the work that Andre and I have been talking around using LLMs to enable searching and enable engagement with the archive. So it's like a first step that I think we need. And also it's just because it's such a neat little task that people can just do and then bugger off if they want to, but at least they'll know something about the archive. So I'm just going to do my best in the next couple of weeks to get people engaged with that. And that's all I can really say.
Peter's also volunteered as well.
So I see.
Yeah,
Nice.
so thank you, Peter. And
I think shouldn't we like try to do a tie-in with making dework tasks out of it? And
yeah, we could
sorry
do.
if that's already done, but I haven't seen them. So
Yeah, we could do. I think really what I was thinking is I'd get people to say they were interested first, but maybe you're right, maybe that's the wrong way around. I just think that what I'd like to do is pull a group together to talk about it first. I don't think somebody can just individually go off and do it as a dework task without any priming or discussion about what the archive is, how it works, what a tag taxonomy might look like. So I'm kind of thinking of it as maybe get 5 or 6 people who are interested together for a half-hour chat, and then they can go off and do it as a bounty.
Is that
Yeah, I
kind of
think-
like gone?
Yeah, I think the teamwork to get the people is not it's just overhead. I think the document already is like a better approach.
Okay.
Okay.
So the plan is to have a working meeting from the people interested in about the taxonomy.
Yeah.
About taxonomy. Which, yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll share that. I'll amend that doc slightly to make it clear that it's like I'm asking people who actually want to do it,
Right. Okay.
and then I'll share that around. I mean, if anybody's got any thoughts about what's the best way to do that, I mean, I'm just thinking I'll post it in everybody's Discord channel, but I don't know. Does that seem spammy?
I see head self doing it. I feel it's spammy, but
Fair enough.
if it does work for some, because you never know. Like I don't like mute channels, but there probably is like something that they mute channels and then you don't really see. Like it's like they're working their thing. I'm not really part of Archival workgroup. I don't want to get pinged every time, and
Yeah.
then but they want to get every single ping of the channels they follow, so they usually use the mute feature. Now they have this filtering option in Discord, but I think this is so new feature, nobody really uses it.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably maybe a good idea to ping out. I would use ambassador channel, but you don't have access there.
Well, maybe give Vanessa access to the ambassadors channel.
No, but the thing is, the ambassador channel is full of ambassadors, whereas we're trying to use it as sort of like an onboarding thing for
Yeah,
people.
just use the general, I would say.
Yeah, all right. And what I might do also is like any meeting that I happen to be at, I'll just mention it, maybe.
Okay, posting general channel. I won't create a link to the document. I create links on GitHub. They are public.
Oh, okay.
So the only link I have that is so I don't want people from all around the world editing this document. So
Oh no, if I just change access so it's not if it's
Yeah.
view only.
If you
Oh
can
no,
drop-
no, because we need people to add their names. All right, yeah.
no, but if you can drop me a view link, I can put it in here.
No, because I'm just thinking we need it to be open because I'm asking people to add their names.
Okay.
So, yeah. All right.
I'll leave it for
Yeah.
Discord. Yeah. So
Lovely.
okay, that's still open, and we have a plan. So the mouse is not behaving. Okay. And that's the publicizing archive workgroup meetings. Okay, guidance notes for meeting facilitators.
Now for this, can I screen share?
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll stop my share and go for you.
All right. Yeah, because I've got a draft, and I think some of the people. It's good that who's here is here actually. Okay, so some of it is just really minor, and it's just from doing it. You know, stuff like if you put your name and the date of the meeting, don't put it halfway down, just put it at the top because we don't need it. Because when you paste it into the archive, it already says it. So, you know, I think some people say who's present and who facilitated, and some people don't. So I think the guidance note should say yes to do that. A lot of people say how long the meeting was, and I don't know why they do, because I don't see what is interesting about that. But if people want to add it, then maybe we can have that. But the main thing I'm finding is that there's a difference there's two styles emerging. And I actually, although I've really championed the idea of do it how you want to do it and how suits your group, I don't actually think this is an issue of what suits your group. I think it's just people's style. And I don't think the narrative approach works very well for the archive. So let's just say, like Tevo, you will generally do it as very much kind of, okay, this was the agenda item, this was the point that was made, this was the discussion, and this was the action item. And it's kind of quite bang, bang, bang. But some people will write this chatty narrative, which is quite wordy and has a lot of padding in it. And I would like to say to people, don't do that. Do you think that's too prescriptive? Is my question. Oh, right. Yeah, Stephen. Okay. Yeah. For length of meeting, useful for charging. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my dependent, I quite like Tevo's approach to summaries. I know that can be a bit prescriptive, but it does provide very useful information about, decisions, particularly, and because otherwise you just get a kind of, and I hate to say this because this is relevant also to LLM development, isn't
Yes, exactly my
it?
point.
So an LLM Tevo's structure is more friendly to an LLM,
I think so.
than something which is vague, something like even so I think we need probably to identify
Yeah. I think it's a
key
style
phrases.
question, because what would be useful? I mean, I don't want to pick on anybody, but this was like a good example of the kind of chatty style. And we've got things like, we're starting the meeting with, and really this whole sentence could, and I think I did take it down to onboarding, and I think it's more about, rather than the chattiness, it's more about saying what happened. But I don't want to say to people, oh, you've got to write it this way. And I just wondered what people thought about that.
Yeah, it's like less narrative, but but that's perhaps personal bias. Because one thing you do with, like, for example, I don't know who was it, I think in Keter also writes these big blobs, and I'm not really sure what they're like, even if they describe what they talked about in the meeting, I still have to then read it again to understand what they take to the next item or what decisions they made. But usually I'm like, okay, they discussed about something like this, and then I just keep in my memory. But if like, for example, Andre now and Randall, who helps me to facilitate these rotational meetings, they adopted kind of the meeting summary template. I can kind of read that, and I don't even have to think what happened in the meeting, but because I can agree to this action item, I can agree to this decision item, and it's like much easier, and like takes me less than a minute to go through this compared to these narrative texts.
Yeah.
So especially if you're trying to find something, then you can use Shears function to kind of get pinpointed, and through narrative text you cannot do that.
Yeah, I think that's true. And like, just the item here that I put, I think action items and decision items are definite. You also include insights and learning points and things like that. And I feel that they're probably optional but useful. So I think the final guidance notes could include them as something that people could do, but they don't necessarily have to. And we might have to define exactly what an action item is. It's something that you've agreed to actually do. And in my eyes, it should be assigned to someone. Whereas a decision item is more things that the meeting has agreed, which might not involve actually doing any specific action. So I suppose we just need to clarify in the guidance notes exactly what those things mean.
So are we edging towards recommending people use templates for meeting summaries?
I mean, yeah, it feels like we are. And I think that it's going to help us with, it's back to this question of what's useful for using LLMs. But I don't know. I feel a bit uncomfortable about templating it, but maybe that's what needs to be done. The other thing I was going to ask about is, like, I find that you spend a fair bit of time formatting it, and I just wonder, can we ask people for a specific formatting? What some people do, you think, yeah. Because what some people do, I've noticed, I think Incubation does this. I can't remember who does it, but they put their meeting notes into a Word doc, a Google Doc, and they link to the Google Doc in the meeting summaries. And that's actually quite useful, because then they can format it in the right way, and I can cut and paste it and bang. So rather than asking people to put it in as a post, maybe we could ask them to put it in as a doc, a link to a doc.
Peter, did you have a comment on that slide, didn't you?
Well, last night for a process guild meeting, I found myself in this situation where I, after writing up, it's like, okay, let's have a quick look at the GitHub to see how I should format. And that was like, okay, I'm not going to do this. It's 12 o'clock at night and I want to sleep. And so now I still have to do it. So I found myself in the process. And I do think it should be pretty straightforward if you've once worked with the template that suits your work group, which can be adapted from a more general template perhaps to make it like fit to your work group. But then to every time use the same same template, that makes the most sense to me. And I saw the same, no, let me rephrase, on action items. I kind of feel, I saw a lot of action items on the GitBook, which are nowhere else to be found. Like, I'm not sure if by definition they should turn into either Git PRs or issues or dework tasks or...
Right. So it's kind of like what is the point of the action items, really, isn't it? And also, so are you suggesting that? I mean, one approach might be each work group agrees a format for how they record their meeting. Is that an approach, Peter? Do you think?
Yeah, I think once a work group has a, yeah, I don't know. It needs to make sense it needs to be as less work as possible, right?
Yeah.
But it does need to be somewhat custom, perhaps for the work group needs. And yeah, on action items, you would assume every meeting there's a check on previous action items.
You would think, wouldn't you?
But I'm not sure if that's quite happening. Like,
See, this is the thing. This is like the usefulness of the archive. It's like it's kind of out of scope for us to be telling people, oh, and you need to look back over your last week's action items, because we're just archiving what they tell us. So I wonder if how can I put it? Are we overstepping if we use this templating process for meeting summaries to also suggest to people, oh yeah, you should be at the top of each meeting looking at your action items from last meeting? Because I think that's useful, but it's kind of out of scope of the archive. Do you know what I mean?
I would say it's out of scope. At the same time, there's also work group leads who don't quite have the experience of running a work group. So that's the moment where it's definitely needed. And then, yeah, I wouldn't say it's the archive work group's job to fix that, but flagging it and then, yeah, through strategy, or maybe the work group leads group, or yeah.
I think it's a good example of synergy between work groups, Peter. The archive work group kind of just reveals, it's like a mirror we're holding up to the other work groups. So we found this elsewhere when we're documenting governance, is that if you document something, you can end up reflecting what's going on, and that can help identify issues. But ultimately, I agree with you, it's up to the work groups to capture their action items. So yeah, maybe that should be taken to a different work group, like a process or an integration work group.
Regarding action items, I can tell that perhaps 60% of action items don't get done because the way I use action items is not really assigned, but they are more like, well, this is a thing we agreed that should be done, but who does it? Anybody can pick it up, and I'm not creating a dework task, because then I would just create myself an overhead to have like a bunch of dework tasks, and I use Miro to kind of recognize this. But I adopted that kind of style to every single work group I run. So that's why it's kind of scaled, that we have just a bunch of action items that we agreed to do. But on the other side, from previous, like running Swarm stuff and doing things there, and when we created action, because I use this like purple stickies quite in many places. And just like a year later or something, we stumbled upon like a history of Marabot, and I go through these action items like, oh, cool, that is done that is done, that is done. So it's like a more like a reflective reason that, hey, if you don't know what should be done, or like you want to help, these are all the elements. But probably it's quite over because there are different people, but I assume that there are people who are similar to me, who can like understand chaos. And when you say all of these are action items, and he's looking, wow, these are 200 action items here. And she just picks random one and just does it and says, hey, I did that. And if he wants rewarded, then I turn this action item into the work task. But when I do action items from my robot, I'm actually not including them in the work items, unless it's like a long ones, because not actually most, there is like if the item is less than 1 hour, then I'm usually included in activity list or combine it with some other activity.
Yeah.
If it's more than 1 hour, then I create that separate work task for that.
Apologies for cutting this short, but yeah, this is I need to bring the subject back to the action items for this issue. So, so we need to think about this in terms of what are we doing with this and what are the next steps.
I mean, what I'm suggesting now is good to get people's feedback, and I've got a couple of other things that I'd just like to get a quick bit of feedback back from people.
Okay.
But then I'll write this up as something, as actual guidance notes for people how to, and I might create a template that's kind of adaptable, you know, not overly rigid, and start asking that people use that.
Could you update the issue notes for that as well? What you just said.
Yeah, I will. But as soon as we've finished going, can we just?
So we continue on for another, if people are happy, another 5 minutes or so on this.
Yeah, if that's all right.
Okay, I'll shut up for another 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, you can already see it. I am feeling more and more that the summaries that we put into the archive shouldn't necessarily include a Miro board. And I'm really glad you're here, Tevo, because I just really want you to shout at me and go, no, of course we have to have Miro boards.
I already said that this is useless overhead. But Stefan was like, no, this is data.
But the trouble is that it means that, all right, an archive to me is maybe different than it is to some of yous, because I'm quite interested in, you know, the more complete archiving process and, you know, the emotional side of it, the side of it that allows future people to get a glimpse into who we were and what we were. So it's not just about action items and ticking things off. And it's not just about a kind of process management. An archive gives an insight into what this community was. So some of the material is not just the action items and the tick boxes. And a lot of that is in a Miro. And if you're going to get it out of a Miro so that it's accessible to LLMs, so that it's archivable, searchable, indexable, somebody's going to have to pull it out and write it down. And that's a big task. But I just think archivally, if it stays in a Miro board that somebody's optionally done and that we don't put into the archive, we lose all that historical information about what and who we were and what we discussed and how we discussed it. And I don't know how to mitigate this. I don't think the archive can really include non-text formats, because that data is then locked up and inaccessible. But we're losing all the discussions and all the record of what we've said and how we've come to the conclusions we've come to. And even though you might think, oh yeah, but people can just look at the Miro board, in 50 years, will Miro even be accessible? It might not.
We have to put it on the blockchain somehow.
Yes, we do. How?
I mean, we touched upon the Read AI element previously. I know that is limited use of something, because we all record, we mostly record our meetings, okay, and even if we're using whatever tools we're using, whether it's a Miro board or a Google document or whatever, there is still, I mean, we know from experience that it's impractical to document transcripts. and AI's interpretation at the moment of transcripts is not good enough. But tagging and taxonomy may be useful. Is that what we could use, maybe?
Yes, tagging will definitely be useful.
Yeah, I mean, this is part of what I want to do with the taxonomy and tagging group. But I still think archivally, you know, you can look at a Miro board and, oh, we can tag it for this, this, and this. But archivally speaking, in the long term, people might not be able to access that because it's locked up in a Miro board. So I just don't know what the hell.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Andre's point is that if you're linking, because it's not, I mean, the ambition here is not just an archive, it's like an on-chain element to it a little bit as well. And also an AI element to it, yeah? So the question is, how do those things fit together? And I think Tevo's approach on the meeting summary template that we just discussed previously is a good direction. It's like a compromise because, I mean, it is tricky because you are being prescriptive to people, but I can't really see any other way. Can you, Tevo? Because you need some way to regulate what you're capturing in order for it to be understood by an LLM, and then also to go to another step to kind of filter that even more to provide key information on chain.
Yeah, for AI, I feel like we need a pattern, and templates give the pattern. And it's also like a growing thing because it's basically the first time I'm doing meeting summaries. And I guess the template changes also over time. What I feel like we technically don't read a Miro board access per se, if the pictures would be high quality. But if you notice, I'm sometimes not adding the PDF version because the Miro board just gives me an error. And I don't know why is that. I assume there are some objects that are not, that the Miro board is not able to kind of export out or something when broken, or like and I don't know how to fix that. So let's just skip that and keep the low quality picture. And just I shared in Process School chat, I found a AI tool called, what was that, PDF reader. I call it PDF reader, but it's basically what it does is if I drop in a PDF to that, and for example, like we used I think some kind of process chart. I think it was translators workgroup or something, and I asked, what roles do you see? Like write me a framework you see on this Miro board, and then it was able to distinguish all the boxes I created. And then I said, okay, describe the value of each of these roles you described and each of these lanes, and it was able to quite well actually tell me what is in this process map, which usually would take me, I think, 30 minutes, which is like ridiculously good. But every other PDF I tried, it's not able to do so. So I'm not quite sure like what gave it. So I think it requires some kind of like structure and a lot of like encapsulation, not a free form process map. But it's still like,
what's it called again? Can you put it in the chat?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I suppose it's also how it fits into each of our workflows, Tevo. So, I mean, you should still use a Miro board, okay, because it's like a way of working. It's like a way of work. It's an ideation way of working, all that. The question is how can you work in that way and at the same time output text? I suppose really, and. The only thing that we've come up with is that you have to do an additional task of a meeting summary, so that what you've done in your Miro board session is captured in that way. And that's not this tool that you're referring to. Maybe we should test it actually.
Yeah, I tested it, but yeah, it only worked once, and everything that is freeform is kind of messy. Well, what I'm able to do, for example, the grassroots governance event, what I could do is I can extract the sticky notes. It doesn't know the connections, but when I do the sticky notes, it kind of gives an idea of what the discussion is about. And when you drop it to the ChatGPT and ask it to summarize each element, and you give it like a framework, like you always try to make ChatGPT to come up with like a lot of varieties how she should answer, and maybe like bunch of questions, and then you ask another prompt to execute on that. Then it gave a pretty good overview, because then I was like, yep, this was the main discussion, and then I was able to like summarize. I still had to rework, but I think it helped to kind of.
I think it complements the archive. I think this I don't know what other people think, but I think this complements, you know, our use of experiment, the innovative aspect of the archive. So I think we should experiment with that, Tevo, and also because the bottom line is it useful enough? Is it producing useful content? I suppose that's really the bottom question. So we won't really know that until we are testing it on your work group or some of your material, Tevo.
So, I mean, could we move to that as a process now, rather than when you give a meeting summary in the meeting summary channel, giving an image of the Miro board? Could we move to trying this tool and giving a text-based?
The problem is that it's a free form, the way I kind of capture notes. That tool seems to only recognize if you kind of box everything up and make it like very structural, but we don't talk well technically. The process modeling workgroup right now is very boxed in, because you have these columns and rows.
Yeah.
But generally all the meetings I just, whatever you say, I put the sticky note, and when it's related, I put the arrow, and it's not really that structural. Well, at least that tool doesn't understand that.
Right. So what do you get from it then? Just like a load of text that doesn't really hang together?
Well, when it worked, it gave good information. But if it doesn't work, then I think it says that it's not able to read the data or understand it or something like that. So it doesn't even give you an output. It gives you basically some kind of.
I'm going to have to ask people to start to wrap up this item now. So Vanessa, can you?
I mean, yeah, except I think it's a useful discussion, and I sort of feel that we're not going to have a practical session today. So we've got 40 minutes left of the meeting. So should we go back to the board, and if we've got any time at the end, come back to this?
Yeah, I just want to close out the business for the board.
All right, nice.
Sorry about that.
Let's do that. No, it's fine.
No. Okay, I'll come back to we'll come back to this as the second part of the meeting. Okay, a lot of this we can close down quite quickly. Colab development, again, this is nothing to say about this because there's no work being done on it, basically, because of the other work I've been doing on catalyst proposals. So that's something that's in our backlog. Training GitBook Lens LLM. Again, this aspect of what we've been doing on development, we haven't been doing work on. Andre, that's right. You've been mostly focusing on tool development. Is that right, Andre?
Yeah. I've just been focusing on that. For July, I managed to get this one repo where if you click on it, it creates a copy of this repo, and it also creates the tables in your database, because I needed to look at that to understand how this thing is going to work. And I managed to get this example repo. So now I've got an idea of how the tables and the embeddings work. And I looked, the way that this guy did it is he this is a very simple example. He's just got a document and he looks at each heading. So he captures the heading and then he takes the text below the heading.
Can you
And
paste a copy of the repo?
it's that link there.
Oh, at the top here.
Yeah, I've created OpenAI account and experimenting with example
Okay.
repo. Right. So you'll see.
It's got this 404.
Oh my goodness. Okay, wait, I'll drop another
So
link.
can you drop a link and I'll correct that?
I think it's this one.
Okay.
Just gonna find it real quick. Is it this one? Let's wait to search.
Just so we could do a quick screen share on it, Andre.
Just trying to find it now. Maybe it's here. I'm trying to find the original one, but is it
And while you're looking
I'm
for
just
that,
I'm gonna make that one public.
yeah, while you're looking for that, I'll just close down the work you've done for June, so that's costed, yeah. So in June, again, to summarize, and it's in this issue which I've got on screen now, you did a lot of setup work, yeah, or like installing
Yes.
repos and all this sort of stuff, yeah, and doing some initial meeting with Jingles. Felix is not here, but that was
Yes.
with and all that. So the cost against that for the whole of June was $500. Again, that cost can be reviewed by the ambassadors, but that's going to be part of the invoice for that month, for this month. Sorry, we're closing it now, so I'll close that now. But going back to July, Andre, what were you saying about the link?
Try the link again. I made it public now.
Okay, yeah, we have the link. Yeah,
Okay.
this
So
is
if you
a
go down.
and this is a fork of a tool. Yeah.
Yes, this is a fork.
Okay, carry on.
So you see that blue button when you click deploy. They did this thing with Cell there and with Superbase. It's like all these platforms linked together. So when you click that deploy button, it actually deploys and it forks the repo and it creates the database tables. So I've got a nice overview of the whole thing, how it all fits together. So I've just been looking at that, and but I'm not going to use this one because this guy used Docker to update the documents. But I think I'm going to use GitHub Actions to do that. And
Is Vercel just a JavaScript wrapper for Superbase?
Vercel is where you deploy your. It's similar to Netlify.
Right. Okay.
So you use that to deploy the website. So next steps for me there is just I'm going to create the tables. I think I wrote it there. Yeah. Next steps. I'm going to build the database tables. And then I'm going to create some sample markdown. And then start testing the OpenAI API calls. And then I'll use one of the archives you already created. I'll use that as a sample and play with that format, and then I'll let you know.
Any idea or what? So you'll just use one of the markdown sources in the GitBook?
Yes. I'll use that timeline folder with the weeks. So I'll use those markdown files and just see if if we need to do something with the format, but maybe I can use the format as it is.
Yeah.
But then another thing that's going to tie in with this is those guidance notes that Vanessa is creating.
Absolutely, yeah. So the first step will be to use the markdown format in the archive GitBook as it is, which is quite raw,
Yes, yes.
isn't it? And
Yeah,
that is just what is it? It's just month, week,
Yes.
and 1 week and meeting and work group title. So that's going to be
Yes.
quite raw, and then we would use a taxonomy system, somehow a taxonomy system.
Yeah.
They're the high level steps. Okay. Well, that's great. That's great. That's great update. Do you want anything you want to add there, Andre?
No, just if I see something that needs to change in the GitBook, then I'll bring it up. I'm even willing to help change it if it's like something like we need to make something in the format.
You might need to tweak the Git. Might need to tweak the GitBook format.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. Okay. Like that could be heading formats or.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether it's heading 1, heading 2, or that,
Yeah. I'll also be happy to help with that.
Right. Okay. I'll leave the July open for the moment because we're still in July. Yeah, and the cost for that would be around the whole of July would be 500. Again, that's what
I don't know. Yeah.
We can.
I don't know.
Go on.
July, I didn't do that much because of the proposals.
Yeah, should we cost it more like 200?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. But also we can review that. I won't close this issue yet, so we're probably going to close it in August. Yeah. So it would be costed to August. Yeah. Because I've closed the one for June. Let's just check it's closed. Yeah, it's closed. Okay, that's the development ones. The LLM one is still, there's not much been done on that, and it's still open, as I said before. Okay, briefly on, is there anything else you want, any questions about that, anyone, or
that well, what is the plans of the GitBook Lens LLM?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Really, we haven't, it's been kind of on ice for a few months and we haven't really done anything with it. Maybe we should close it. Because we're not really doing anything with it, are we?
Yeah, no. I remember we did, I think we did some tests, but it didn't look too great.
Yeah, I mean, we can close it and that will be for the whole. All we did was we tried to train it a few times, but it's through a closed API, isn't it? Anyway, Andre, we don't have access to GitBook's Lens. We have to go through the Lens feature, which in itself is using OpenAI, isn't it? So I can't really see if it's particularly useful or not, considering that.
Yeah, I don't think.
Okay, unless there's any objections, I think we should close that and focus on tool development.
Yes.
Okay, close that then as well. Okay, because it just is a bit of a distraction. And Colab development I'll keep open because, and for the purposes of people here, the difference between Colab development and what Andre's doing, Colab development is based on Python. And I haven't really I just started on that and I didn't really take it any further. But it offers a route for us to do Python development or Python equivalent of what you're doing, Andre. Okay, moving on to this is going to be the last item before we return to Vanessa's thing, is the governance GitBook. I think Felix is no longer here, is that right? But do we have any updates on governance GitBook, Vanessa?
Not really, no. I mean, I think Felix, if you're still here, I think we've talked about baselines in the governance work group, and I think it's just a matter of I don't think Felix is still here.
No.
No, he isn't. Yeah, so it's just a matter of tying that together and kind of I think it's mainly going to go on in governance work group. So it's just a matter of getting it onto the GitBook. And since we haven't done it yet, then there's nothing to add, but we will do.
I'm for the governance work group to address governance baselines, which is the same as what we discussed last time. So it's still outstanding.
Yeah.
And that's open, so is what it is. This is we need to update I need to update the meeting issues actually. So I'll create a meeting issue for today's meeting and update that as a task.
We've had a whole meeting that wasn't an issue on the
I
board.
know. I
Oh my
should
God.
I created now, so we should have meeting. I can't remember what X it is.
Meeting 5, I think it is.
Meeting
Isn't it?
5. Yeah, because we had a gap. We had a gap, didn't we?
Mm.
And today is the 26th of July. So so I should have created an issue for that. Sorry. To issue. And I'll create the issue and create the assignees, so everyone here really. That's and due date will be today, and that's a meeting.
But you did that, Peter.
It doesn't, because Peter's not on GitHub, I don't think. So yeah.
Let me check that actually. It should be.
I think unless if you can paste
You should be able to have an invite link from that assignee list.
Yeah. If you have a GitHub account and you can paste it into chat, Peter, I can add you. But I'll close down meeting 4 because that's costed. Each meeting is currently charged at $200. So again, this can be reviewed by the ambassadors. But I'll close the last issue down. The issue for this meeting will close in August because we still need to. Well, unless people think we should close it now. I don't know what people think.
No, but I think we should. Oh, have you closed meeting 4? Yeah, you have. Sorry.
Yeah. I just closed meeting 4, but meeting 5 still needs to be documented a little bit before it closes. Yeah, okay. So that's going to be open. Did we discuss the archive GitBook for July? No, we didn't, because I created a new issue for it.
No, I said that I'd fill it out.
Okay, and with that, unless there's any other questions, I will close the project board for this meeting. Is that right? And stop the sharing. And we can go back to the discussion, Vanessa, that you were having.
Yeah, just to say Peter's just put his GitHub account in chat, so
okay, thanks, Peter. I'll add you to that in the background while Vanessa's talking.
Yeah. No, I don't want to go into an awful lot of detail, but I just think we kind of need a decision on where we're going to go from here. I'm going to be working on getting the guidance notes into a format that I can give to people and say, with a template, and this is what we want you to do. But just in the chat there, we're saying that the thing that we need is tools to be able to read images so that we can get them as text, which is what we want in the archive. But are we saying that we want to change our current workflow at all for adding summaries to the archive? Are we still going to include images of Miro boards in the archive, even knowing that they're not particularly archivally useful? What do we think?
Nice to look at.
Well, yeah, I guess.
But to me, it feels like an overhead from to Archival to kind of keep doing it. For me, for myself, like it takes like, I don't know, under 50 seconds. So it's not like a big deal, but I don't know, like doesn't Like, is the GitBook lagging? Which I actually even haven't checked how it works. And I'm also adding videos. Like, do I stop putting videos too?
Right, I don't know. I mean, I feel less that way about videos than I do about Miro. And I don't really know why. I think it's because I tend to think that video formats will be more lasting and pervasive. So I don't know.
Yeah, I suppose all our videos are hosted on YouTube and
Which, yeah.
may
Yeah,
or may
but
not. Yeah, go on.
okay. The thing is that if you say Miro, but Miro picture and the Miro board link is two different things. Like the picture lasts as long as the GitBook lasts. The link, yes, technically everything that is past 3 months is broken link.
Yeah, exactly. So where do we want to leave it, Tevo? Because I am sort of really conscious that it's an overhead for you. And even though it only takes 50 seconds to do it, you're doing it for a lot of boards and it adds up and it feels like, is that something you still want to be doing? Should we still be doing it? Are we losing information by not capturing it?
Yeah, the way I would actually think it is, do we need it? Would that be better version than not doing it? And if it is, and the overhead is getting out of hands, then Miro board can be automated. There is technically a possibility to click a button and it just appears in GitHub as you need it, or in the GitBook.
How's that? How?
That's how is to hire a developer who actually knows what he does, but it costs $100 per hour.
I suppose
and it's usually probably like a 40-hour job.
I suppose the consideration, do you know what we were doing per meeting frame? And I'm still wondering whether it's worthwhile doing this anymore.
Yeah.
So you take a meeting frame on the Miro board, and there's two things that we were thinking we were doing, which is creditable, which is to take a high definition image of that and a PDF. And the reason for the PDF is so it creates I mean, the word is for now.
Vector.
Yeah, a vector image of the Miro, which in theory you could use in some programmatic way, in theory. Now the question is, imagine a future Tevo where Miro disappears, okay, and we're left with this archive of images and vector diagrams of those frames. Is that useful? Is that worth doing? Is the question. And or is
I mean,
worth,
obviously it really is if we haven't got a way of getting it out as text, like with the tool that Tevo was suggesting might be useful in some cases, but we lose, I think, a lot of information by just having action items and not having the Miro image, but it's an overhead. And so I think where I'm at is it depends on Tevo. It depends whether you feel that you're all right with doing it until such time as we find a tool that can get it out as text.
I don't mind doing it, but I'm still kind of, I don't know, like are you sure we're not going too deep in archiving? Like, I'm not sure we go back in history and kind of go through and see, even if it's like an aha moment.
I think whatever we do, we'll do from the point that we find the way to do it, we'll do it from then forward. I'm not suggesting that we'll go back and...
Well, there is a kind of backlog element to it where, again, this may relate to us meeting together on this, Tevo, where really we need to find the right balance, don't we? We need, why are we archiving? I mean, well, that's the other question.
Well, that's a big question.
Yeah, no, I know, but the question is also, what are we trying to capture? And I think the most useful thing is some approximation of what happened in the ambassadors workgroup since it began. Okay, and there's a few ways of looking at that. They're not all Miro boards, by the way. I mean, one obvious thing, one quick win is to go, and I could concentrate on that, is to look at all the recordings, for example, of the ambassador town halls, from the outset, and they're numbered, so we have a kind of record there of what happened. A secondary thing is to capture, you know, as Peter was saying, decisions and events that happened. You know,
It's true, but this is a very instrumental approach to archives, and I'm not entirely against it, but I am saying that we lose a lot of information that is historical about who and what we were. Andre, were you going to say something just then?
No.
Oh, I just saw your mic go off and on, and I thought, all right.
Sure.
I mean, where will we leave it? Because I think it's something that we could discuss at, you know, in more detail at some other time, but maybe not in this meeting. I don't know, but shall we leave it as it is for now? Or, you know, I'd like to have some process in mind of how we're going to move away from archiving images of Miro boards, because I just feel that it's not.
Yeah, so going forward, should we stop doing that?
That's what I worry about, is that then, all right, for the next decade or whatever, Miro will still be useful. We're never going to go back and check it all out and, you know, put all the material that belongs to each meeting into the archive. So it sort of feels like, for now, if Tevo's happy to keep doing it, it feels like that is probably the best way that we've got to capture that material. I don't know.
I think something better will come eventually to capture that
Yeah.
easier or more automated way.
Mm.
Even if we have to build something, but
Yeah.
that's the only way forward. I think it's to get that.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like if we just stop doing it and we just include a Miro link, that's making our archive deliberately not future-proof in one fell swoop. And I'm just like, oh, do we want to do that? But then I worry that if we keep on asking Tevo to capture the images and the PDFs, then we're just we're not going to look for other ways.
I mean, my view is, I know it's again, not completely is to ask the question of what is minimally useful here. So, and I know that's not just an archival issue. There's also a kind of operational aspect to this, I suppose, where, you know, if you look back at the history operationally of, and we've also discussed this in this meeting already, like capturing decisions, for example, you know, which is a bit of an open question of whether that's an archival issue or an operational process issue. And I think what Tevo's doing on the meeting summaries is really sufficient. It may not be sufficient from an archival perspective, in the sense that it doesn't archive Tevo's Miro boards. But then there's a question of what does, you know. So I think it's useful because it's outputting, you know, a good meeting summary. Yeah,
this is good, but what I'm saying is that this is the archival work group, and if we don't prioritize archival practice, then what even are we? If we just go, oh, it's operationally good, you know.
Based on the last message from Stephen, I actually feel like even though the pictures are pretty to watch, the PDFs may have future. I would still rather use the Miro board links.
Yes.
And if it actually is useful in future, well, then we just, and there is so many pictures to grade, then that is probably more reason to do an API integration to generate all these pictures instead of manually doing that. Because the main use case for our high-level workgroup is to get the backlog of text format that can be fed into, but pictures are not able to fade into yet. At least we don't know the tool.
Maybe we can just back up the data of the motherboard. We don't format it, so we just capture that, because that can be a quite
I think that's
easy.
possible. I think what kind of backup format can you have for a mirror board, Tevo? Can you say that's a huge vector image? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
It does have an API, doesn't it?
Yes. The JSON would be the best version.
Yeah. So we just capture those JSON files every
I think to say
week or month.
we could
But
do that.
I don't know why. Mar doesn't just like they will definitely let us know if they shut down. Like I don't see a multi-million company just go down.
Well,
randomly.
it's happened before and it will
Yeah,
happen
but-
again. Yeah.
But
And
Yeah.
look at Google, the way Google closes down some of its features. I mean,
And
it's-
also, you know,
but
when
it
we
closes
need
down
to
then
migrate,
it
when we
looks
need
like-
to migrate to different formats, it might well be that none of us are here anymore. We might be talking about 100 years.
But I
But-
think from a
Yeah.
pragmatic perspective, and again, I think this is what you're saying, Tevo, a little bit. I would agree that we're kind of trying to resolve a problem ourselves, which is not resolvable, you know, in the sense of mirror board. So I would agree that we just, as long as we have meeting summaries in text, then we should just provide a link to the mirror board. Yeah. Because otherwise we are, I think, creating the image and the vector images of the mirror board, as you say, Tevo, it kind of begs the question. It kind of suggests that we're going to do something with that, you know, and we're not really going to do something with that unless we are equipped to work with the API or something.
I'd sort of like to say, could we create a task for somebody to do a little bit of research about how feasible it is to, you know, back up the data and like maybe do a bit of digging into what other tools might be available if there is anything? Or do we feel like that's already been explored and we won't find anything even if we do look?
The easiest thing, like bare minimum, but we still manage to capture all the data. It's just if there's an API and I've got the link, then I can just get that JSON and just commit it to GitHub. So we'll have a GitHub folder with all the mirror boards data, and someone in the future can come and take that
Yeah.
JSON files and recreate.
but it's not as straightforward because you can only import up to 100 items. And I have no clue how the pagination works. Of course, there is documentation. So I've spent around, I think, 8 hours on just getting sticky notes out of into Excel. So it's, and that's like the limited scope. So I have the minimum items. As soon as it goes beyond, you need some other algorithm to figure out which item is in front, so we don't do duplicates.
If you just capture the raw data, you don't format it.
No, the raw data is bugging it. Like it's like it gives you only 100 items, and I don't know what sequence it is. It probably is something to do with in the sequence they are in like top of each other.
Yes.
But when you start when you use Ctrl+Z and like customize and you move, it gets very funky. It's probably they have like GraphQL behind the motherboard, so they don't really actually organize the objects.
But
so you need to somehow.
Let's go back to basics a bit here. Like a mirror board, what format can you export a mirror board in? I thought you could export it as a vector image, the whole mirror board. Is that possible?
Yes.
Now that gives you version control in principle. I'm not sure how. Let's say you take your mirror board for SinguarityNet, or the history that we have. In principle, you then could save that mirror board as a vector image. Is that right?
Yes.
And then you could version control that. So you just save it as a vector image, say on a periodic basis, like maybe every month. then give that to Andre to put in a repo somewhere. And then we have, at least we have a vector image history of that. Is there a problem with that?
Yes.
What's the problem?
Like I said before, sometimes the vector image doesn't work. It just doesn't work. There are some specific objects. So right now I'm going to try it with process modeling.
Yeah.
We have one meeting. Okay, so the process modeling worked fine. I'm gonna take like some harder version now. Let's say process could has billions of objects. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, this might take some research.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna suggest actually, could we put this to the top of our agenda for the next meeting, and in between, could we all have a little think about what we could do? Because I think, I don't know, I think you're right, Andre, it's going to need a bit of looking at.
We could address it in the non-project board part of the next meeting, if you like, Vanessa. Could we? So,
yeah,
so we could just dedicate. I mean, how do you feel about that, Tevo? That'd be quite a useful use of our time, because the Miro boards are the major. We use it majorly for our documentation. So if we can figure out a way of, well, I suppose it's how to archive it, isn't it, really? And by archiving, I think, Tevo, we mean is kind of how to reproduce it. So maybe the vector image route isn't the right route. Maybe it's a different route, like create a copy of the Miro board, for example, rather than an archive copy. Sorry, rather than create a vector export of the Miro board, what we maybe could do is create a copy of it. Yeah, can we do that?
I think that's a really interesting question. What do we mean by archiving? Because in some ways you could just say it's capturing the information that's in the Miro board. And that doesn't mean copying it, and it doesn't even mean what you're talking about, Stephen. Or, you know, it's like,
I suppose I'm thinking
we lose some of the relations between things, but we capture the comments, the data that people have put on sticky notes. I don't know. I think it needs.
Okay, the vector images actually work. So
yeah,
I was a bit, even though it didn't work for some Windowses, it now worked. So it probably is something to do with database of the Miro board. So when it doesn't work, I just need to try again next day.
okay.
I mean, I think it's a great idea to, and if you're up for this, Tevo, as well, the next archive work group meeting, we can spend the second half of the meeting just on this subject. Yeah. So what we're trying to achieve, Vanessa, we're trying to answer the question of how should Miro boards be archived?
I think it's actually broader than that. I think it's actually how should non-text formats be archived. I think we can apply it across the board, but yeah.
Okay, let's do that for that.
Okay, so if we can like all have a think, then we'll come prepared with stuff to say and stuff to think about.
How to archive non-text format.
I mean, particularly Miro. Let's focus on Miro in the meeting, but if people have got things to say that apply beyond that, then great.
I suppose video also is relevant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, particularly Miro boards.
And slides, slides are another thing. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. We're coming to the end of the hour. I think this is overtime actually in a way, but I mean we can continue talking if you like, but can we bring it
to?
No, we've all got.
Basically in 2 minutes I have to kick you out, assuming you're using Ambassador.
No, this is Q8L's account.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for participating and contributing to this meeting. It's much appreciated. And the meeting will be uploaded to SinguarityNet YouTube and Q8L YouTube as well, actually. And the project board part of the meeting will be timestamped as well in the next week or so. And I'll stop the recording now, unless there's any other wants to say. I'll stop the meeting, stop the recording, sorry, now.